A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Cam Edwards here from the 2022 Shooting Hunting Outdoor Trade Show. And look who I ran across already, Stephen Gutowski, our friend from the Reload. Stephen, it's good to see you here.
Hey, it's good to see you too, Cam.
And you lucky dog, you made it out a little bit early, so you got to go to range day on Monday. We're going to talk about that in just a second, but I will say I've had a chance to just briefly wander the aisles. I was very curious to see. We knew that attendance was going to be down just simply because of Omicron. This is a very different feel. This is a really unique SHOT Show this year, I think.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, obviously we had some of the big companies pull out, like was it Springfield and Beretta and SIG, yeah. So it's obviously going to be a very different show, and I think it'll be more focused perhaps on those smaller companies, which is a real opportunity for them, because they're going to be the ones in front of all these distributors and the big companies that don't need to take any risk because they're going to be able to sell their guns regardless. Ruger's going to sell guns, SIG's going to sell guns. They don't need to be here, but those smaller companies do. And so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out on the floor.
Yeah, and not only, do these companies, as you say, they can't really afford to skip SHOT Show, but this does give them an opportunity to get in front of distributors in a way that they might not have been able to in recent years. 2020 was sort of the last quote-unquote normal SHOT Show. COVID was just making headlines as we were here in Las Vegas. And then, of course, last year's show was canceled. And now I think the industry is still trying to find its equilibrium in terms of supply and demand. So I would think that would bode well for some of these smaller companies.
Yeah, especially in the ammo side of the industry, I think there's a lot of opportunity right now for smaller companies to break in, because you've seen some consolidation. So there's two major companies, Vista and Olin, control a lot of the market. But with prices so high and supply not catching up, that's a lot of incentive for new companies to come in, and perhaps some of these ones that are here today to grow to accommodate that demand. And then obviously, on the firearms side, you still see stock that's below what it was in 2019. It's still hard to get some of your favorite guns. It's not easy to just walk in and buy the thing you actually want out of the store anymore. That's just the reality of it. So you have a lot of opportunities still in the industry for suppliers to come in and fill that demand.
So we know that ammo is scarce in the marketplace. How was it at range day? Were you guys limited to like 2 rounds apiece?
You know what? I was actually just about to mention that. Yeah, you did notice it. I noticed it at range day. That when you go to shoot the full auto stuff and have some fun, they weren't giving you 30 rounds to shoot. They were giving you 5 rounds. You get a little burst, which is still fun, but yeah, it was noticeable. Obviously they had ammo and everyone got to shoot it. But yeah, you did notice that they were limiting how many rounds you were doing each gun that you were firing.
So it's impacting everybody, including the industry itself. I have to ask, did you shoot anything new or notable yesterday?
Yeah, I actually shot a couple of interesting guns. Range day was similar to this, I think, where you have a lot of the big players weren't there, so Springfield and Ruger and Glock was there, though. You still had a lot of the big names were still there, but some of the smaller companies filled that gap, and you still had a pretty good attendance like you do. I think Mark Oliva from NSSF just told me there were 41,000 people registered at this point, which is pretty good for SHOT Show. It's not what it was in 2020 or 2019, but it's not that far off. But yeah, I shot the Lago Alien, which is a pretty cool gun. It's one of these like competition range queen kind of guns because it's like $4,000, but it has a lot of interesting innovations packed in, or at least different combinations of technology that aren't as common in the general market, because a lot of what you see today in handguns are that tilting barrel innovation from John Browning 100 years ago, and it's great, and polymer lowers, that Glock style came in in the 80s, but Lago's doing blowback with a stationary barrel, with a stationary flat top to the slide that doesn't reciprocate. So you can do a lot of things. You don't get as much barrel flip, and it's just a different style of gun, which is really interesting. And that was fun to shoot for sure.
Was there much of a learning curve? Given the differences, obviously it's still point and shoot. The basics are still the same. But did you Did your muscle memory interfere with your handling of the gun at all?
No, I don't think so, because the ergonomics of the gun are exactly the same as any other handgun you've ever shot. It's just the internals that are really different that give that, and how much of an edge. It's one of those things where it's like, is this so much of an edge over that dominant, tilting barrel Browning style that it's going to take a significant chunk of the market? I don't know. I think I could tell a difference of putting shots on target, quickly without as much of that barrel flip that you get from a fully reciprocating slide. But I also shot the Tabor shotgun, which I'd never seen before. I didn't even know they made one. It's a bullpup shotgun, 12 gauge.
Okay, so I shot that in 2020, or at least a version of that Tabor.
That thing was nuts.
Yeah.
That has so much recoil to it. It's a very futuristic looking gun, but yeah, the recoil on it shocked me, to be honest. And then Rock Island Armory is making their own. It's aluminum frame, but their own striker fired semi-auto handgun, which I thought was pretty fascinating for Rock Island, because they're usually doing your low cost 1911s,
right?
But they've got a new 22 rifle and stuff. So there was still a lot of new stuff out there at Range Day that piqued my interest.
And that's interesting in and of itself, because as you say, a lot of these companies could focus on their meat and potatoes products right now and do just fine. So it's interesting to me that we are still seeing this innovation within the industry at a time when the demand is so high. We've got millions of new gun owners. It would be easy, I guess, for some of these companies to just say, all right, forget about innovation right now. Let's put R&D on the back burner for a second. But it doesn't sound like they're doing that in many cases.
No, I don't think so. Especially something like Rock Island is one of those companies that is traditionally known for a certain thing, but clearly they're seeing opportunity in the market to introduce new products that compete in that space that's constantly sold out now. It's hard to walk into your gun store and find the lineup of M&Ps and Glock 19s and 17s. Like, they're not that available. So if you walk into your gun store and there's the new Rock Island, semi-auto striker fired handgun, but there isn't the SIG P320, maybe you buy that Rock Island, and maybe that's what they're looking at.
Yeah, and again, there probably is an opening in the marketplace for that, as you say, given the supply shortages that we're seeing still, almost 2 years after the great gun run of 2020 kicked off in earnest. So I want to ask about, some of the things that I'm focusing on this week. I am going to be talking to some of these smaller companies to get an idea. Is this, sort of their moment to shine? We're looking into ammo availability. I can tell you we've got a VIP piece coming up later today. I'll just give you the top line. Nobody really wants to talk publicly about the ammo situation within the manufacturing sector. But what are you focused on at this week? Because, it can be overwhelming from a reporter's perspective to just walk in here and say, okay, I have to cover all of this. So you got to try to, focus on a couple of things. What are you going to be focusing on?
Yeah, I think one of my focuses will be smart guns, because you've seen now two new companies come into the market with, smart gun technology, and
are either of them here this year? Do you know?
Yeah, Smart Guns is with a Z. Quite the name, but they're here at SHOT Show, and then I believe that one of the other companies, I forget the name of it, but they're doing something else in Vegas as well. And I think, from my understanding, it's pretty similar to previous smart gun ideas, which is just basically biometric locks or RFID locks in the gun, integrated into the gun itself, more so than something like a Manus X, which tracks your shooting and helps you improve by having a little computer on the gun. But that's obviously much more controversial as the smart gun locking technology, because a lot of gun control advocates want to make that the only option available. You saw this in New Jersey. They had a law. They recently changed it to make it a little less draconian, but they had a law for a long time that said once smart guns become commercially available in the U.S., that's the only thing gun stores in New Jersey could sell, which is obviously a huge problem, because there's a lot of there may be some room for a biometrically locking gun. People might want that. People like biometric safes, right, which is just sort of adding an extra layer, but I think there's going to be no real room for the idea that these are the only kinds of guns you can own, because there's a lot of drawbacks to a smart gun. To anyone who owns a smartphone that has a thumbprint unlock can understand that that doesn't work every single time. And when you're dealing with something that you're using for self-defense, you go to use your gun and it doesn't work because you didn't have your fingerprint quite right on the fingerprint reader. That's a problem. I mean, people don't like the Series 80 1911s because they add a little safety into that mechanism, because they think makes it a little bit less reliable. And so, I don't know, how's the market going to receive something like this?
I think this is something that the gun control advocates and even these smart gun companies have really sort of deluded themselves. I just don't think the market demand is there, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. It'll be interesting. Look, I mean, and I know that the industry has been accused of hostility towards, smart guns, but the fact that Smart Guns with a Z is here and exhibiting would indicate that, the firearms industry is at least happy to take their money and say, here, have a booth. Let's see what the market says, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the industry, as far as what my conversations with Mark Oliva from NSSF go, they're not opposed to the concept of somebody having a biometric lock on their gun if they want it. They're generally opposed to mandates for it, and obviously New Jersey has really been the main impediment to that development, in my opinion, because they were the ones that mandated that if this ever came to market, that would be the only thing you could sell in New Jersey. So yeah, there was a lot of resistance to something like that coming to market because of that law. Now they changed it so that now you only have to offer it in addition to the other guns that you offer, but how long that remains reality. There's a legitimate concern there, obviously, from gun rights advocates and the gun industry about how this technology is going to be used politically.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're going to be covering, of course, we're going to be covering SHOT Show. Stephen's going to be covering SHOT Show. I would encourage you to check out his coverage at the Reload throughout the week. Stephen, let's get back to the overwhelming. I appreciate you joining us, sir.
Hey, thanks for having me.
It's always good seeing you. We will have more coverage from SHOT Show, SHOT Show 2022, that's what year we're in, throughout the week at BearingArms.com, including Bearing Arms Cam and Companies from the SHOT Show in Las Vegas. But again, we'll also have stories for you on the website as well, BearingArms.com. So don't forget to check it out throughout the day for the latest Second Amendment news and information that you need to know about. And we'll see you soon. Until we talk again, be well, be safe, and be free.